Praise Him, everyone. I pray that everybody's doing well. I thank God for those who have been praying for me. Um, and I ask you to share this video. Share this video with others. Please share it with others. I was going to actually wear this shirt, System Failure, which for me would be underlining of what's happening and my grandmother being murdered at Broward Health, basically. So later, um, in this recording, I'll be playing playing back audio recordings of two governmental leaders. It was a city commissioner and a congresswoman. So it's just later in this video, just letting you know I'll be playing the audio recordings back. People have given their words to pay attention to a tragic event and don't want to even listen to it. I need your help because my grandmother, she was murdered in Broward Health, and she was murdered because of race. So there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. There's nothing else in addition to why it happened. She was murdered because of her race. I promise you this. And if you go down to the bottom of it, there's a link of a video. I made a video of it, and it's very detailed. And based on the medical records, the autopsy, the transcripts of the audio recordings of the medical physicians in that time span at the hospital, one can conclude that she died of a very horrible death for 12 hours. Massive heart attack, 3 sections of her lungs collapsed. Her upper left lung was enlarged to the point that she was trying to compensate for what everything else could not do. 6 ounces of frothy liquid was in her breathing pathway. Frothy, thick liquid was in her breathing pathway as she struggled to breathe for 12 hours. So as a people, we didn't get to this point without some form of protest or sounding the alarm, and I'm looking at notes just letting y'all know, but some form of protest or sounding the alarm. We didn't get to this point. African Americans, whites, everybody, because really, just as Joe Biden said, without, if it wasn't for racism, I believe he quoted that we'd be up 5 trillion a year in the economy on what we're bringing in. So I've detailed things out, providing you with a lot of information in the video. So I've detailed things out. It's just the video below, and I'm just introducing this video, and also putting Congresswoman and the city commissioner on blast. Congresswoman and the city commissioner on blast for not even wanting to hear it because of obligation and liability and accountability as soon as they hear it. So if it doesn't make sense, my story, the video that you click on, if it doesn't make sense, I ask you to give 2 cents. I ask you to share it. Please share this video. Share this video. I want them to click on the link because the link is more in detail of how my grandmother died. Why the racial connection to why she died. It's explained. I ask you guys to also comment in the videos. Put your comments down in the videos. But in my opinion, the main problem is governmental leaders have been ducking and dodging me from having a conversation because they don't want necessarily an investigation, period. They don't want an investigation into the death of my grandmother due to racial discrimination. They don't even want to touch it. There were some administrative people that didn't even want to touch the autopsy report that I gave. I was trying to give an autopsy report. They didn't even want to touch it. This was different from commissioner and congresswoman, but just in that same bracket, that was at Broward Health actually. They didn't want to touch it. It was almost like The moment you get something, the moment you hear something, in people in certain positions, you have to act on it. But if you don't get it, if you don't hear it, it's like a thing of plausible deniability, for lack of a better term. So I have been trying to meet with Commissioner McKenzie for the longest. Now he's out of the office. He's a county commissioner. So now Pam Beasley-Pittman is there. And so I actually ran into her, and I ran into Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick at the Cis-Trunk Historical Festival when I was passing out flyers. Okay? Passing out flyers about my grandmother's death. Mind you, I have been trying to reach them forever. And give credit to mind you, I've been trying to reach them forever. The key thing with the event that happened with Commissioner Commissioner Pam Beasley-Pittman, she's new, so I didn't recognize her face. And I'm passing out flyers saying, hey, do you mind sharing this with the group, because my grandmother, she was killed because of racial discrimination. She was killed because of race. So that's normally the line that I've said as I was walking up the parade route and ending where the commissioner was. And so I'm passing the flyer out, and so I didn't know who she was. When I tell you that she said nothing, she didn't say a word when I said that my grandmother was murdered at Broward Health. She said nothing. Then when I tried to hand her a flyer, she said, oh no, they got it, that's okay. That it was another person that has it. Okay.
Y'all mind if I share this with you all? My grandmother was murdered at Broward Health due to racial discrimination.
That's one of them.
Yes, we can just share this flyer. Okay, thank you.
We're together.
Okay, thank you so much. No, stay blessed.
That's me wanting to share the flyer, and she didn't want to have it because she's saying, oh, we're together, we're together. I promise you, she didn't. If you hear that somebody got murdered somewhere or another, you didn't have a reaction. You just stood still like I don't want to call it any animal's name, but you just stood still and frozen and didn't react to it because you didn't want to get into it. Because once you dig, it's a Pandora's box. Nobody wanted to ask any further questions within that group, and I didn't even know who they were. So it came up to me walking away, and I'm hearing. So there's this voice that's saying, Commissioner. And I'm saying, wait a minute, that was the commissioner? I was baffled, one, that was the commissioner, because she didn't introduce herself. She didn't say anything. She didn't say, what? I'm sorry to hear that. Or are you really serious? How old was she? Okay, here, take my card and let's talk about it later. If she introduced herself and said, take my card, because right now, there's a lot going on. Are you living in my district? Okay, great. Right now, there's a lot going on. I'm getting ready to speak, but take my card because I want to hear what you have to say. Didn't go that way. I had to turn around because someone called her commissioner. I went back to her again with the flyer about my grandmother's murder inside a governmental facility. Waited for approximately almost 2 minutes. Literally, I'm listening to the recording, the audio recording of how long I waited. I'm listening to the audio recording within the approximate 2 minutes that I waited, that I voluntarily took pictures for her and someone else while I'm trying to wait to talk about my grandmother's death. Once I was able to talk about my grandmother's death, and she was kind of present for me, she confirmed that she was commissioner.
Miss Pittman, right? Okay. Miss
So
Pittman,
you hear me saying Miss Pittman. You hear, where's the next one? You hear me. Well, there's another one that's talking she's explaining that she had just came into the office. Then all of a sudden, I'm saying my grandmother.
yeah, so my grandmother was killed at Broward Health.
So my grandmother was killed at Broward Health. That's the audio recording. My grandmother was killed at Broward Health. This is her response. Things were fine until I mentioned the city of Fort Lauderdale.
So Section 8, I received a housing voucher under Section 8.
Okay.
When I received the housing voucher under Section 8, the City of Fort Lauderdale Housing Authority. Housing Authority, City of Fort Lauderdale. When I received it...
Listen, this is what...
When I received the Section 8 housing voucher with the City of Fort Lauderdale and trying to move basically into a predominantly white neighborhood, which it is my belief that no Section 8 housing voucher in the United States has ever done this before, because it had to go all the way to the top it had to go to Washington. It had to go through three different offices just to get to the fourth one, which is the Assistant Secretary of Housing. So I'm sure of it that I'm almost sure of it that nobody has ever done this yet before, and they probably didn't know of a cap being able to be waived. That you can remove the cap and you can move into an area of community of what they call. For black folks, it's an area of community. For black folks, there's statistics that says that when you move into that area, automatically, income-wise, resource-wise, you're going to go up the tax bracket. There's a major change. There's a better change. But people are keeping Section 8 segregated. That's the big thing. They're keeping Section 8 segregated, and I just need y'all help, because the only thing I want to do is just talk to them. That's it. Hey, this is what happened. It probably be maybe 30 minutes. Show them the autopsy report. They don't want to see it. They don't want to touch it because they become responsible now. Because now, no, you've seen it. So here's the thing that ticked me off. Because at the end of the day, you know, they say this speech about how serious they are about transparency.
I found for them to waive the rent on the voucher. And they didn't want blacks to know about it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we'll talk about all of that because transparency is something that I'm very serious about.
We'll talk about all that because transparency is something that I'm very serious about.
And what's going on the east side needs to be applied to the west side.
What's going on the east side needs to be applied to the west side.
And what happened with your grandmother, I want to hear about it. And I don't want to make it a cap in conversation.
It's embarrassing when I have to do... Yes.
What happened with your grandmother? She didn't want to make it a cap-end conversation, basically, like a dead-end conversation. And so I'm telling her it's embarrassing when I have to create a website just to get somebody's attention to what's been going on and what's been happening. And my grandmother's murder is just towards the end of this. Literally, I have affidavits already. I got medical reports. All this has been done. I am gathering the evidence. Nobody wants to touch the evidence or see it because they have to. It's like even the police officer. Soon as I talked to the police officer and they wanted to rule it as a civil thing because it was a wrongful death. No, sorry, it wasn't a wrongful death because in the intensive care unit, there is one nurse per patient 24 hours a day. One nurse per patient in the intensive care unit. That nurse is in that room assigned to that patient. They don't have any other patients doing that shift in the Broward Atrium intensive care unit. So in those 12 hours, my point is this. Nothing else showed in those signs which the records was bad. But in those 12 hours, what happened? I was only called 5 minutes before she died. By the time she died, she had a massive heart attack. But in that time span, they're saying, oh, no, no, no. But her lungs wasn't collapsed before I left last night. Her upper left lobe wasn't enlarged because she's still trying to breathe. She definitely wasn't congested because you would not have recommended to take her off the ventilator if she still was congested or had that much fluid in her breathing pathway and she couldn't breathe. She would have never came off. They assured me that she was breathing on her own and everything was fine. I asked them, what happens when she comes off the ventilator? We'll put her back on. They waited 12 hours. The seriousness about it, my mother had spoken about this and she said that they normally, and I detail it further in that video again, just click on the link, but what they normally do is that she says, Terry, you know, as a hospice nurse, which she is, LPN, what we normally do when they extubate patients, we go by the bedside. You know, the family, we call the family by the bedside. And because I'm guessing the critical moment of extubating that person, stethoscopes and certain other monitoring devices has to be used to make sure that there's no congestion buildup, that everything is still fine, that they still don't need additional support. Okay, so now that put this times 10 because now we're in an intensive care unit. People who are monitoring her 24 hours. The signs didn't happen 30 minutes. They probably knew more than likely maybe an hour, less than an hour, and I'm giving them that much. She died. They killed her because my mom went on and said, you know, we normally check them every 10 minutes almost, you know, just to make sure they're good after they're extubated. So I'm counting this thing. That's 72 times. 72 times that you walked up to her and you had to write a report or had to check something and said, check her pulse, listen to her. No, she's not congested, or she's almost dead. Because the longer you wait and you say she's not congested, as if your ears are deaf, then something's wrong. That's not possible. The longer you wait and the lights are blinging off, the machines lights are bringing off, flashing off to you, saying that this patient is now in distress, then no, that's not saying something. You're not waiting to see if she gets better. You're waiting to see if she died, when she dies. That it's not time yet. She ain't dead yet. She's still struggling, but she's not dead yet. That's what occurred. It's not she's still breathing, but she ain't dead yet. I need somebody to investigate my grandmother's murder. I just need somebody to listen to me. I just need somebody to accept the evidence that they will not take in their hand. She didn't even want to take a flyer. She did not want to take a flyer alone because if she's ever asked, Commissioner, did you know about this? I have no idea. I saw him, but I didn't. There was no detailed information. Plausible deniability. Now, the fact is, before this meeting, she said that she would get back with me. She gave me her word that she would get back with me. I told her I would hold her to her word. That was at the Sistrunk Historical Festival, February the 25th. Now, what makes it so bad is because this flyer looked different. It had a picture on it, me with the judge. It was 8 different phone calls to a phone number that they had me to pull the judge's picture off because it was me and the judge. They had it pulled off. I pulled it away. So somebody went all the way to the chief judge in Broward County to complain. This was Sistrunk Festival Saturday. Monday, the phone started ringing. Take it down. Remove it. So you had time enough to complain about my flyer, but you didn't have time enough to come, because no regular person can call the Chief Justice. No regular person can call the Chief Justice over the weekend or get the Chief Justice before 9 a.m. because that's when calls started coming in on Monday. It had to be somebody in the top bracket, either Congresswoman or the Commissioner's branch. Commissioner Beasley. So that's it on that one. You know, at the end of the day, and to be very fair, this is Congresswoman.
Congresswoman. sos.congresswoman.SheilaCM.com.
Very important that you hear that.
sos.congresswoman.SheilaCM.com.
You're a congresswoman. You are a person that's a representative. You are a city leader, whatever it is. And somebody says SOSyourname.com. And you mean to tell me you're not going to check that website out? SOS Congresswoman SheilaCM.com. What? SOS? My name? My name's on there. SOS? Still didn't get a phone call. And as a matter of fact, when I did call, because I did get a card, they gave me a card and told me to call. But when I called and when I even went to visit, you have to understand, this was the chief of staff for the district. She's very busy, right? But she told me to call her because of this situation. And they also had a flyer too as well. Can't nobody say they didn't have no flyer at all whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, here it is.
I've been trying to stop by your office the whole time. With Pierre, with Mike, talking with Mike, Pierre, everybody to talk with Mike McQuarrie. I know, it's Miss Pierre now. Okay? But I've been talking with you all for about a year now.
You didn't mishear that. If you heard it, it was a year. I have been trying to reach Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick for at least a year. I have been trying to get the FBI, because the only thing they need to do is when you go to, this is very important, y'all. If you don't get nothing else from this, know your rights. If you ever having a problem with the federal institution or any agency or whatever, go to your local representative, your congresswoman or your congressman. Fill out an inquiry. Tell them, I need you to do this inquiry on my behalf. So the only thing I did, I filled out all the paperwork. The only thing they had to do was forward it to the FBI. Can you please forward this report to the FBI and ask them, are there any criminal actions involved in this discrimination, this racial discrimination? This has been for an entire year. Not yet. This has been for an entire year that Mr. McQuarrie, we got to get you off to find out why you on a terrorist list. I'm on a terrorist list because y'all, that's the only way they could have prevented me from moving into a white neighborhood. They went to that extreme. Because with this voucher, you had to and you had to be a threat to the community. And somebody had to be paid good money to corroborate that story, because I have a great character and I'm a person of integrity. So somebody got paid good money, and there's proof of the money. So at the end of the day, let y'all go. Whatever y'all do, pray over this. Click the link, click the video link, whatever you need to do. But for the folks that know me and know who I am and stuff, I don't play with anything. You want to know why this is so serious? This is so serious because, again, it's never been done. You would think that, but Terry, really, over your grandmother? If I stopped pursuing the case, then more than likely, maybe not, she wouldn't have died. But because she wouldn't have been murdered, excuse me. But because I continued to pursue the case meaning even the final report. Hear the video. Hear the video. Please, when you have a moment, when you have time, hear the video. But the case, I couldn't even get the final investigative report. So, because y'all know me, I'm an attorney. I'm going to look at every single word. I'm going to look at everything. If it's a centimeter incorrect, I'm going to make it right. That's me. Bad language, but that's what I'm going to do. So, for 2 years, I never got the investigative report. The only way you can ask for reconsideration, appeal, or do anything is with an investigative report, because you need to tell them what's wrong in it. Congresswoman, the congressman's office at the time, Congressman Hastings, they told me, oh, your package was too big. It couldn't fit in the post office box. I'm telling you, for 2 years, even the post office box could not deliver me a package that they said was too big, that was no more than 19 pages and could be folded up in a small box. For 2 years. Something was wrong. And so, not even going further into it, because at the end of the day, and thank y'all for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I pray that the only thing you do is just one time share this. I pray for the blessings of it. I pray for the blessing that God blesses my enemies. I don't wish harm on anybody. On nobody at all. And you would think that my enemy is my best friend, because I make sure that I go the extra mile for people that I may have issues with than the people that are closer to me. I've been taught that. With your enemies, you bless them. Guard your heart, but bless them. You all, thank you for watching. If you're just coming in, go back, go to the beginning. It may be a little long. I may be cutting things off, but I'm trying to sound the alarm in the black, white, and every community to tell them, look, this is going on, and it's racial discrimination. Racial discrimination, the United States, is like a geofence. So the geofence is invisible. There's an invisible fence. I'm not sure if you guys know about like the dog collars that people have, the electronic collars. And so the dog goes walking out, and then all of a sudden you can't walk too far, but you walk too far, you get shocked, and you hear the dog like backs back out because they're being shocked, because now they've gone past a point that they're not supposed to go. There is an invisible fence of an invisible segregated fence. There is an invisible segregated fence in every area in America. Trust me, it is there. You just hadn't moved there. You just hadn't questioned, is it okay if you can move there, to find out that it's there. But once you go into that area, you're going to get a shock like a little dog. You will. And the point that I'm making is that we didn't get to this point without somebody saying something. We didn't stop digging until somebody said something. We didn't stop walking with chains until somebody did something. So because you may be, content. There's some that may be content. You have to dig down. Dig down for your generation, your next generation. Dig down for others and say, you know what? I don't know what he talk about. I don't want to talk to him, but look, let me just at least forward this to somebody. Let me forward this video to one person. That's all I ask for. If you don't pray. Just say Jesus. That's all I ask. But I'm telling you, I'm ringing the alarm. I'm telling you, there is race. I'm not the person. I'm going to end this out. I'm not the person that racial discrimination will be the last on my list to fight, because I don't like. I think that sometimes you have people who will say, "Oh, they racially discriminate against me." I think they jump ahead of it too fast to call it that. So for me to call it that, it had to be 7 years on the 5th year of me going back to know that they started in the beginning. And records, I have over 200 emails from the housing authority showing what they did. Trust me, it's showing what they did. And everybody's been so nasty. The only thing they wanted me to do is to take my life. Trust me, it's been that bad. That's the only other conclusion you can have. It is the only other conclusion you can have, that they wanted me to either have a nervous breakdown or take my life, is when you walk into the emergency ER room and a 96-year-old has had a wound to the head, and basically her spine was crushed and compressed against her nerves. So she was a quadriplegic, not even a paraplegic at that time, partially paralyzed. She couldn't swallow, but then a nurse walks up to you and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I tried to give her a Tylenol, 3 Tylenol tablets and some water, but she couldn't swallow the rest." Okay, Medical 101, trauma center. She wasn't just in the trauma center. She was in the critical care unit in the trauma department, level 2. You don't give nobody no liquids if they 13 years old and they had a head injury and a neck injury and they were on a brace and they could no longer move their extremities. You don't give them any liquids. This was soon as she came into the emergency room. Broward Health. So you walk up to me and tell me that now, that you messed up. That's not going to happen. They walk to their supervisor. Something that bad, I promise you, ask any medical person, they're not going to admit what they did as far as giving somebody that kind of water and they aspirating. No, they're going to try to deal with it and not tell you about it unless they have to. The next thing, why am I thinking that somebody wants me to either harm myself or kill myself or whatever the case is, or cause me to have a mental breakdown, is because within the next morning that we're walking into her room now that she's admitted into Broward Health, we're coming through and the person on the bed says, her roommate, "I'm glad somebody finally came in here to see about her." You're trying to figure out what she's talking about. By the time I pass the next curtain, my grandmother is not responsive. Her head down is like this, and guess what? Guess who was helping her? Nobody. We had to get out the car, go up the elevator, walk down the hallway, walk past the nursing station, hear the beeping and the monitors beeping out the side at the nursing station, and then to see her being non-responsive. When I say non-responsive, so you don't think that I'm exaggerating. Non-responsive was when they finally got there, after somebody alerted them or told them to come and see about her, they had to immediately put her on the ventilator because she was not breathing on her own anymore. When I'm telling you she was not breathing, she was not responsive, she had monitors connected to her, but yet somebody wants me to walk in for what? Because literally, come on now. No, the only other reason there is, y'all really want me to nut up in here. Because y'all doing my grandmother wrong. They want somebody to act like a nigga. They cut up like a nigga if you want to. Trust me. I've been taught very well by my grandmother. Especially in certain areas. We have to make sure we're very extremely nice and over nice. We have to make sure that every reaction, even though it is a real reaction, it is a reasonable reaction to it, and proportionately reasonable, we have to still dim it down. We have to make it seem as if, oh, it's our fault, I had a misunderstanding, until we get the hell out of hell or a hellish situation for the betterment of our life. So at the end of the day, no, they wanted me to have a nervous breakdown to catch my grandmother in there not breathing, because 2 minutes, it only take minutes that a person dies in a breath. How long was it before we got there? The person came in and said, I'm glad that somebody finally came to see about her. Meaning she was in some form of, the roommate heard that she was in some form of distress, but she obviously couldn't get up. More than likely, she was probably trying to call the nurse's station. Trust me, if somebody's in distress, you're going to call the nurse's station, and she's saying she's glad that somebody finally came to see about her. And my grandmother was not responsive. She didn't say anything. Her head was down. Her head was limp. That was it. When they came in, she was not breathing. They immediately had to intubate her and put her on the ventilator. Not 10 minutes later, because she was declining. Not, well, Mr. Brewer, I think we're going to have to do this because you know what? Whatever's happening to her right now, she's not breathing so well that we may have to consider putting her on the ventilator when in the next 30 minutes or so because her health is declining. No. Immediately, rapid response. They had to intubate her. That's the only life-saving measurements they could do then because nothing else was working. She was not there anymore. And it was a matter of seconds or minutes before she actually died. And would she have died before we actually have gotten there? Third is what I'm saying now, 12 hours. 12 hours on somebody being right in front of your loved one, knowing that they're dying, knowing that 3 sections of the lungs didn't just collapse, and nobody's saying anything to you. So it's like you have a car, and you leave your car at a certain place, you come back, there's 3 different dents on it or something, and it looked like it's been in more than 3 different collisions, and you trying to ask, what happened? This just didn't happen at one time? Like, why didn't somebody call me to stop the rest of the accident so we can be responsible with that driver who was driving the car? Why nobody called me ahead of time to actually prevent this? Nobody knew about it, really? Anyway, and it's like the nobody knew about it, but you was in the passenger seat. The passenger is the nurse that's in the room assigned to one patient. That is the passenger of this car that is now going down, my grandmother. 12 hours. She had a massive heart attack. If ask somebody who's medical. And she was very, for those who need to know this, and I'm ending this off, she was very alert. She was extremely alert, and if you want to know why I'm personally upset, besides it was over race, because there was a deadline that needed to be met for me to file another case. If I didn't file that case within that time frame, that was like a good time for them to do what they needed to do, to put some hurting on everybody and myself. So at the end of the day, myself, she was awake. She was alert the night before. We were talking about giving her speech therapy. She was alert. She was awake. She was saying, I'm coming home. She noticed everybody's name. She was calling my name when I wasn't there. She was calling my mother's name when she wasn't there. Okay. So now, if she was doing that, and so now they wait until she comes to, because they had to do something else, some other procedure, and when she comes back from that other pain thing, then they're going to extubate her because she has to come back, when the pain medicine wears off. She was fully alert. You yourself don't think that you're going to ask, that you're going to say, call out somebody's name. Ask for somebody's name. See if somebody's there, but you can't turn your head. You can't see anything because you're in the bed, but you can talk. You're not going to say, Terry, you there? You're not going to say, Shelby, y'all there? I can't breathe. Terry, I can't breathe. Something wrong. I don't feel well. Because I can tell you in the pitch that she'll do it because she's haven't felt well before. 12 hours. If they were gonna, and my beef is not about the death. Dying and suffering are two different things. Wrongful death and a crucifixion is something totally different. Leaving somebody hanging there to die and waiting or checking on them to see if they dead yet. That's the crucifixion. They ain't dead yet, stab them again. Or they ain't dead yet, we just gonna wait some more time. No, don't call the relatives because they're gonna ask you to put life-saving procedures in. Y'all stay blessed. Please comment. Do whatever you need to do. I don't know how far this video goes. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to put it out there, and I'm trying to put an alert, and I'm telling you, they killing niggas, period. And I have to say the terminology because that's how it happened. And if you know me well enough, I'm not going to say that word lightly because I have to be responsible for everything I say. I have to be accountable. I'm not going to be that person to say any word lightly. I'm going to know it, and I'm going to have paperwork to shove it in your face to say you can see it if you want to. Everything that I say. So they killing niggas, y'all. You just don't know yet until you hit that fence. Maybe you're comfortable and you don't want to hit that racial fence. Maybe you will never know. But maybe it'll be too late when you do find out. Maybe, you know what? Since somebody talking about this, I need to make sure that my black behind or somebody else don't end up like this later on in life. Trust me, if we don't get ahead of it now, we'll never. It'll still be invisible. Y'all stay blessed. You pray my health and strength. Again, I thank God for me being here. If it had not been for Him, I'm telling you, I would not be in front of you. I would not be as sane talking to you at this point in time. If it had not been for Jesus, period. Y'all stay blessed. Have a wonderful night.